Hello everyone, Trent Davis here. On behalf of the 3235 EDN teaching team, it is my pleasure today to deliver this Unpacking Assessment lecture video here. So I will spend this session looking at what the student analysis report is, how we can collect the data needed, and I'm going to end with a suggested format or template that you could use there as well. Please watch this in its entirety. You might have to have me on 1.5 speed and come back and watch it there as well, because it's broken the task down into sections to hopefully make it clearer for you there as well. As always, if you have any questions, please do put them on the discussion board there too. And thank you for your great work to date in this course, not only in our tutorials, but as you've commenced your professional experience there as well. It's very exciting. So firstly, let's just review the logistics of this task and actually see what it is that we've been asked to do. Now, I know your tutor would have explained it to you before you went on placement, but again, just to reiterate a few things here as well. It is the only assessment in this course apart from your professional experience report. So put your professional experience report aside. Assuming that you've successfully completed that, you now just have this student analysis report to complete in order to successfully pass the 3235 EDN course there as well. It is 1,500 words with that 10% leeway plus or minus there as well, worth 50% of the grade, and it's due on the 27th of February. In this assignment, you'll be focusing on the development of reading skills. Now, you're going to choose a particular child and focus on that child from your professional experience placement. Your task is to collect and analyze data on that child's reading behaviour to better understand the strategies they are using and to guide further development. So that is exactly what you'll be doing in the real world. So it's great to then practice that for this assessment task there as well. We don't have a particular template as such, so you can create your own. It is a report. So you're writing up on a Microsoft Word document. Use Word, use the headings, tables, add things, work evidence, samples in as appendixes there as well. And you must use academic writing and APA guidelines there as well too. So let's break it down a bit further, and each slide I'm going to unpack it bit by bit. I'm a visual learner, so I need to break it down like that, and hopefully this will help you there further. But as part of your placement, you'll hopefully have already started to closely monitor a child's reading progress over the 3 weeks that you're there. I told my tutorial group to start pinpointing a particular child in the first few days of the placement, and also have a backup child, because as you know, in schools and young children, there's a lot of illness. They could go away for an unapproved holiday there as well in the middle of a teaching term there as well. So make sure you do have someone that you can have a backup there as well, so you're not having to extend your placement there too. Observe that child. See how they engage with text. Look at their strengths as well as challenges. I don't like the word area weaknesses. I like the word area for improvement there as well, or challenges. Don't forget to highlight the child's strength. Everyone's got strengths there as well. So if a child's struggling and you're going to focus your report on that particular child, they could be below year level expectation. But that doesn't mean they haven't got any strengths. So do spend some time highlighting and investigating those strengths there as well before you dive into those challenges there as well. Start to track any improvements or difficulties they experience. And I'll talk in a few more slides about how that data collection method will look like there as well. But over the period of those 3 weeks that you're on placement, you will be systematically collecting data on what we call their reading behaviours. So look of things such as decoding, fluency, comprehension, engagement, all right? Growth mindset, or a fixed mindset towards reading there as well. Do that through anecdotal observations, might have a running record or a school's benchline tool there. I'll talk about that in a moment there as well, or any other assessment tool that you've discussed with your mentor or teacher there as well. Once you've gathered that data there as well, your next step is to analyze it. Don't forget, teachers are data-informed practitioners. We analyze student data all the time to best support them. So look for patterns in the reading data. What reading strategies are they using well? What reading strategies are they lacking in? And look at that in comparison to the literacy development theories we've discussed in class and Conz's Big Six of reading there as well. From that, this analysis should help you identify areas where that child will need further support. So you might have notes, running records, work samples there. You might have a comprehension passage there as well that you've scanned. Obviously keep it de-identified, and I'll talk about all of this in a moment. This is just a nutshell of what this student analysis report entails, and we'll continue to break it down. But think about it. From that, you can then think carefully about which two are the most appropriate repertoires that you're going to focus on for that child. Remember, you have to only focus on two there as well, and then justify your choices. So consider how those approaches influence their reading, that child's reading development, what strategies you've used or the mentor teacher has used there, and how the child has responded to them. Finally, from that, you'll then compile all that into what we call your student analysis report. This should include a summary of the child's reading progress, so the strengths there as well, the effectiveness of those two repertoires trialed there as well, and evidence-based recommendations. So it's not just what you think this child needs to do to improve, but some theory and reasoning behind it there as well to help them with that continued development. Because we are lifelong learners, there is always areas for everyone to continue improving on there as well. Look at both the affordances and limitations here within this report. Look at those chosen strategies. Provide that balanced approach through that evaluation. Keeping in mind, this is what we do all the time. We want the best for each child in our class, what we call that optimal success. So we are working with each child to reach that optimal success. And that level is going to look different for everyone in that room because everyone is an individual learner. So let's now break it down further. Let's look at the data collection process. Now, I know you've already been on placement there as well, so I'm hoping you've already started this. By all means, if there's other data methods that you've discussed with your mentor teacher that I haven't mentioned today, go for it. That is fantastic. I am just giving hopefully a helpful guide to help with that assessment there as well. But if you've already making progress, you're quite happy with your progress and you've got some different collection methods, by all means do that. And I know our wonderful course convener, Associate Professor Jeannie Allen, will be happy with that process there too. So just keep in mind, when you're observing that child's reading behaviour, focus on how do they engage with that text, all right? Look for those early signs, first of all. Can they actually hold the book correctly? Do they know how to read from left to right there as well? Look for fluency. Are they reading smoothly? Or do they pause quite frequently? Are they reading robotically? So if you look at the heading there, data collection process, are they going to data collection, all right? Or having long pauses, or is it quite fluent? Pay attention to that pace because that is a real key here as well. How do they use expression or lack of expression there as well when they read words aloud? Are they reading too quickly? Are they reading too slowly there as well? Take note of their decoding skills. Can they sound out words and blend sounds together? Think back to what we've discussed in this course. Look at SAT-PIN, all right, for example there. SAT-PIN there as well. They should have grasped that phonological awareness already. So if they're still sounding those sounds out and blending it together for simple CVC words, what does that indicate? What does that tell you with that child's reading behaviour? Do they struggle with unfamiliar words? Okay. What type of unfamiliar words are they struggling with? And then look at their comprehension. Can they answer those questions? Now we spoke about those types of questions in our tutorials. Literal, inferential and applied meaning there as well. Can they summarise the key points? Can they give you a literal retell of what happened? Can they infer meaning, all right, beyond what's explicitly stated on the words on the paper there as well? If you're going, yes, they can do it, they might be above expectation, all right? And then you need to look at further acceleration. If you're going, oh, they can do this or they can't do this, that's probably a good indicator that this child that you're focusing on has got strengths and then areas to work on. So let's unpack that further. One of the examples I've seen in my early years classrooms is often a child might be hesitant or stumbles over unfamiliar words. Now, that's fine, that's age appropriate. For me, if I got a medical textbook, I would probably stumble over some of those words and probably could eventually decode it, but I wouldn't be able to understand it there because that's not in my domain or my field there. But that could mean some indicators here. So if a child's hesitant or stumbling over unfamiliar words, what does that indicate in terms of their phonemic awareness and decoding? Look for those patterns because that will help you to understand that child's strength as well as areas for growth there as well. That will be key for when you select those appropriate teaching strategies later on in your report. So keep going with that data collection. The next slide is just a little bit more elaboration on that data collection process. So we want to collect meaningful data. We don't want to have what we call data saturation, where you are collecting data and doing tests just for the sake of it. And you put it in a file or your clipboard there as well, and you're not really using it. You've got too much. In the real world, that wastes time. That wastes and impacts on quality teaching and learning there as well. So just keep in mind, you want to collect meaningful data on that child's reading development. Now, there's a whole range of tools. Historically, schools used to use running records. However, full disclaimer, schools are moving away from that method. There's a lot of research showing why running records are outdated. Why I'm mentioning that to you now is because running records have, for a long period of time, been the baseline tool that schools use to assess a child's reading and comprehension. So a lot of teachers are well versed or well aware of what running records mean. So go to your teacher and say, hey, I need to collect some baseline data. What does your school do instead of running records? Now, some schools might say, oh, we're still using it, or we're slowly phasing it out, or we haven't used them in 5 years. Fine, but what is it? Do they do mini-lit, multi-lit, DRA? Okay, think about it. Now, there's a whole range there, and I'm not going to give a list of every single data tool there as well, because I know I won't be able to capture it all because I haven't been to every school on the Gold Coast here as well. So just ask them. But I guarantee you, whatever tools they use will help you with that. You can look for the miscue analysis. You can look for anecdotal notes there as well. So that baseline tool or data tool will help you. You'll be able to listen to the child, read a passage, and you can document their reading accuracy. If all else fails and you're going, no, my teacher hasn't got any of that, which will be highly unlikely, you make up your own. Find a book at the year level expectation, sit with that child, make sure they haven't read it before, otherwise they'll just read it from memory there as well. Listen to that child read a section of the text, document their reading accuracy, self-correction rate, any errors or patterns. Now you can do it in your notebook, okay? You can type it up as you go, whatever suits you there as well. This helps see how well that child can recognize words, or lack of recognition of words there, how they can rely on particular strategies like guessing, decoding there as well. Are they substituting words? Okay, now, for example, if the word's home, for example, and they say house, all right, it's got the same meaning. I have to go to my house, or I left it at home there as well. All right, in the context, it's the same thing, but there's two different spellings there as well, so they've substituted. What does that mean? Does it mean they're relying on meaning rather than decoding, or are they looking at the picture of a house, even though the word says home, and they go, oh, I live in a house, so it's the word house. Start to make those inferences based on that child's reading behaviour there as well. By analysing those patterns, you can start to determine whether that child needs more support with their phonics, vocabulary, and or comprehension strategies. Now, as I said at the start of this slide, if your school does not do running records, that's okay. Don't think, oh, well, Trent's in the video, I have to do it. Most schools have moved away from this model. So use the school's preferred reading assessment baseline tool. Ask them, what do you do to collect baseline data with that child's reading? We spoke about running records in our course. We know it's outdated. What have you done or what are you doing instead of those? And whatever that tool is, use that. Okay, couple of things to take note. If you're going, oh yeah, I've done that, great. If you're going, oh, okay, Trent's mentioned a few things, I need to go back and collect that. Start with miscue analysis, okay? So let's talk about miscue analysis. This is a powerful tool to understand how children approach reading. By you as the teacher or the assessor examining their reading errors, or what we call their miscues. So how many errors have they made? Now, you can gain insight into the strategies they're using while they're reading. Now, you also are their pastoral care leader. So if they are, for example, distracted, they're looking out the window, not focusing, that might just be a little bit of behaviour. Hey, come back, read it properly there. Or if they're skipping over words, they're focusing, but so if they're reading the title data collection process and they've gone data process, they've missed collection. So that would be counted as one miscue or one error there as well. How many errors do they make in that passage or that book that you are giving them there as well? Is it appropriate? So for example, if I was to read word for word on this screen, I know my eyesight isn't that good and I'm in presentation mode, I might skip one word here as well. That would be seen as appropriate. But if I'm skipping several, all right, or struggling to read it there as well, that's an indicator that we need to provide some support there as well. So the example I gave before with house and the child substitutes it for home, or I think it was the other way around, home and house, it shows they're focusing more on the meaning than that perfect word recognition there as well. So that tells us something about that reading behaviour and that reading strategy, and that will then become data that you can use to guide your support for them moving forward. Anecdotal notes are huge. Now, I know you're also teaching on this placement, but while your mentor or teacher is, ask, can I call this child over one by one? Can I read with them? And you take some notes. I'm old school, I like to write it down. You might like to type it. You could even do a voice memo there to remind you later on. But these are just informal observations that help you track a child's reading behaviour or behaviours and their attitude over time. You might do it daily, every second day there as well. But they basically give you a snapshot of how that child interacts when reading in different situations. Now, de-identified, of course, and I'll talk about ethnical considerations here in a moment, but there's nothing stopping you from writing an initial there, or T for Trent there, or coming up with a Poseidon there, such as John, or Jack, or Jill, and taking some notes there as well, scanning that in or typing it up, and that becomes the appendix within your report that you will submit there as well. Please don't write the child's full name or anything that can identify them too. So you might say, oh, this child's tending to lose focus about 5 minutes into reading. They love looking at the front cover, they love reading the first or second page, and then all of a sudden, oh, what's this? Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing there as well? So that could be an indication that they're struggling with what we call reading stamina, okay? So document it. Now, it could be a one-off because, the next door teacher walked in and they're going, oh, what's happening there? That's age appropriate. But if you're documenting that over every day or every second day, that's a clear indicator that they're struggling with their reading stamina. Write it down, scan it, add it to your report there. Remember, appendixes aren't included in that word count, and that's data. Keep track of those observations, date it, and that allows you to understand those patterns and ways to best support the child's progress. Now, as I said earlier, it's important you don't just document areas for improvement, because we are pastoral care leaders first and foremost. Look for the child's strengths and areas for improvement in reading. By you identifying what a child's doing well and where they may need support, you can then tailor your approach to learning. I know you're only there for a limited time on your placement, but in the real world, you'd have them all year. So you're seeing what they can do and then what they can't do yet, and then you embed that support. Hence why I think this assessment is quite authentic, because it captures what you will be doing as part of your job as a teacher there as well. So, strengths. Start by noting what you see. What is working well for that child? Okay? It could be simple as, oh, they can simply turn the pages left to right. They can point left to right there as well. Okay? Can they use pictures? So for example, it's a picture of a toy car and they're saying truck. Okay, well, they're getting there. The words, there's two words, toy car, and they've just said truck. So they're not understanding that there's two words there and a space, and what does that space mean there. But there's some meaning. They've looked at that picture. They've got those visual cues. Okay? And they're inferring it through that visual meaning. If they are if they are decoding really well, all right, that's going to help you show that strong comprehension. We want to celebrate their strengths, okay? Then you can start to identify challenges or areas for improvement. I know the slide up here's got weaknesses on it. Sometimes you will come across that. They'll go strengths and weaknesses. I don't like the word personally. I prefer areas for improvement or challenges that you can't do yet, the power of yet. So for example, it could be the child's having trouble with multisyllabic words, okay? Or struggling with vocabulary there as well. So they might find it hard to segment longer words, but they can do shorter words there. They may benefit from longer or more phonics support to build those skills. So just start to think about that and how you can help support that child. Document it, write it all down. If I go back to this slide, and write it down, and keep a diary, scan it in, and that's your appendix. If you want to have several appendixes, that's fine. There's no word count with that, as long as it supports what you're doing and it validates the data you're collecting. So, couple of things I just wanted to mention. With that, you are a professional practitioner. Please make sure you maintain confidentiality. Consider ethics and those ethical guidelines there as well, because that is essential to your job as a teacher here as well. So when you document things like this or you're sharing data, couple of things. Use pseudonyms, change the child's name, make it anonymous. If you're scanning work samples, make sure their name isn't on it there as well. If you are taking a photo of anything, or you might be taking a photo at their desk and they're doing work, the child's not in it. And again, I know probably this is not new for you. You're well aware of this, especially for those of you already working in schools as a TA or in childcare there or outside school hours care. I know you know all this. I just need to tell you as a disclaimer there as well. Make sure whatever you do, so if you're writing it down here, you're not leaving it around for a parent to pick up and read. You're filing it away in your bag or somewhere safe to take home there as well. So just keep that in mind. And that's just good practice there as well. You're using this for an assignment, so it's not going any further than the teaching team reading it and marking it, and it's stored safely on Griffith University portal. But the way you've collected it, if you typed it, handwritten, sticky notes, whatever, just make sure you are maintaining that confidentiality there too. I also want to mention, when you are reporting or writing your student analysis report, make sure it comes from that constructive feedback or that constructivist lens, not painting that child in a negative light, because we are pastoral care leaders first and foremost. We know children are going to struggle. That's why we're there. We're there to help them. We're there to celebrate their strengths and bring them up in their areas that they're struggling in, that they can't do yet. So make sure you just keep that in mind. Don't just emphasize or focus on the deficits that they can't do. And then I'm reading a student analysis report that's all negative. You know, it's that feedback sandwich, positives, areas to improvement, and then end with a positive there as well. So a couple of examples off the top of my head, rather than saying, oh, the child's a poor reader, reframe it. This child benefits from additional support in decoding unfamiliar words, because that way it's positive, supportive, but it's also highlighting an area of need and growth there as well. Just something to consider. Okay, now we know from our tutorials over the couple of weeks we had those intensive classes, we know research has shown that there are 6 key components that contribute to successful beginning reading. Because of this importance of these components, they have become, well, originally they were the big five, now they're actually the big six, right? Big six of reading. So we have oral language, phonological awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency and comprehension. In the early years of schooling, your literacy lessons will incorporate those big six. Now, as I've said in our tutorials, they are interlinked. You don't teach one in isolation. You will find that you may be focusing on one more so than the other. So for this assignment, you're focusing on two, but you will have some lap over with those other areas. A prime example of that is if you're teaching phonics and some sounds and decoding there as well, or phonemic awareness and phonics, and all of a sudden a child goes, oh, what does, ginormous mean? A humongous. You're going to stop and tell them. You're not going to say, hey, wait till I get to the vocabulary lesson, you're rushing ahead. You're going to stop and tell them, oh, it means big. So you're touching on those other areas. Now, I know my probably shoulder's blocking it a little bit, but you can see up here the big six of reading instruction, or those 6 repertoires of reading there as well. So I just want to go through a couple of them now, and it's again, hopefully this is just revision for you from our tutorials there as well. But you have to choose 2 pedagogical approaches, which is on the next slide. So before that, it's important to understand the 6 key components because they contribute to successful beginning reading and successful readers in your classroom. So I want to go through a couple with you now. So oral language, all right, that involves the ability to understand and use spoken language. It lays that foundation for both reading and writing, and it's critical in developing comprehension and fluency. So that's on the other end of the spectrum. If I go down to phonemic awareness there as well, and phonics there, so phonological awareness, that includes the ability to recognize and manipulate the sounds in spoken language like rhymes, syllables, phonemes. So document that. Can a child recognize syllables, rhymes, or lack of? It's a crucial step for them learning to read. A lot of schools might do Hegarty's, all right, phonological awareness program. Great. Can you do that? Or can you sit next to the mentor teacher and collect some anecdotal notes on that child's engagement and participation with that Hegarty's program there too. Phonics, that involves understanding the relationship there between sounds and letters. So the letter is S, the sound is S, the letter is A, the sound is A, and it also makes its name A there as well, for example. Phonics instruction does help the children decode words and enables them to sound them out in unfamiliar contexts there as well. Vocabulary, so a child's vocab really directly affects their reading comprehension. The more words they know, the better they can understand it there as well. Fluency, how they can read that text smoothly and at an appropriate speed or lack of speed and quite robotic or slow there as well. Fluent readers can focus on the meaning of the text rather than just decoding for words there too. And comprehension, so that's that ultimate goal of reading there as well, and understanding the text. It involves the process to interpret, interact, and engage with that text there as well. So we've covered all 6 of these in our tutorials prior to placement. So don't forget our tutorials are recorded. You're more than welcome to go back and listen to those recordings there as well. In the early years of schooling though, literacy lessons will incorporate the big 6 components. So ask your mentor teacher about it. You'll be looking at how to build those strong foundations for reading. So when you've looked at that, it's now time to select 2 reading pedagogies there as well. But in order to do that, you need to have an understanding of the big 6 there as well. So in a moment, we're going to look at pedagogy, because if we can carefully select pedagogy that matches that child's current abilities, you're supporting their continued growth as a reader. Don't forget the theories of literacy learning, constructivist theory, social cultural theory, to help support your decision and provide evidence for your choices, and go back to what we have offered in this course there as well. So with that, you would then choose 2 pedagogies from the course content and match them to that child's identified learning needs. So you've collected the data, you've analysed the data, what does the data tell you, what's the child's strengths, what's the child's areas to improve. You've looked at those 2 of the big 6, and then you select the 2 pedagogies to go with it. By doing that, you are ensuring that that approach aligns with that child's area of challenge. So you're not developing a support plan or intervention that's well above their level or too easy. It's appropriate to their learning needs there as well. A couple of examples. So let's unpack it further. If a child's struggling with decoding, you've collected data that that child's struggling to decode, you might want to go, okay, well, I need to implement some phonemic awareness and phonics-based strategies. That method will focus on breaking down words into sounds and help the child to recognize and decode unfamiliar words more effectively. All right? Vice versa, you might have a child that can decode well, but they can't comprehend. So you might develop some questioning techniques, summary or summarization activities there as well, because that's going to help encourage the child to engage deeply with the text and summarize key ideas, improve their understanding of what they're reading, and ultimately fluently comprehend that particular text there as well. Okay, so with that in mind, let's have a look at some pedagogical strategies here. So I want to clearly outline the strategies we're using to support that particular child and that particular child's reading development. Don't forget, you just can't pick any, okay? These strategies should always be justified by that child's reading data, helping you to track progress and make that informed decision. You might go, actually, I need to do some more guided reading sessions to improve fluency. So justify it. Well, these are focused small group sessions designed to improve fluency, and back it up with a citation there as well. By working closely with Trent, we can target specific skills such as X, Y, Z and help Trent read more smoothly or with greater confidence there. So you're justifying the pedagogical strategy and that pedagogical tool that you are doing. Vice versa, we need to do some reciprocal teaching. So this approach looks at or aims at enhancing comprehension. It involves the child taking turns, leading discussion about the text, which helps develop critical thinking and understanding of what they're reading. Johnson et al. 2020 states that critical thinking is important because, and justify it through that approach, just like you would in a normal academic paper there as well. Still got to have that academic tone. Right. When working on your assignment, please make sure you clearly demonstrate your understanding of the 6 repertoires of reading and the literacy theories we've covered. The quality of the strategies you identify is important. You have to choose one that's evidence-based, so it means it's backed up by literature. It's either peer-reviewed or it's published in a notable source there as well, and it's relevant to the child's reading development. You also need to justify your choices of the 2 repertoires. Explain why they are best fit for the child you're working with. Don't just describe them. Okay, we can do a quick Google search and find out what that strategy is. So don't just tell me or retell me what it is. Critique it. Critique its affordances, its limitations, and how it supports that particular child. So it's really clear you need to spend time collecting data on that child. You won't be able to just copy and paste things off online because it's to do with a particular child. What worked well? What challenges did you encounter? Make sure your academic writing is strong. The Griffith University Library has wonderful support, peer sessions there, so reach out and utilise that free service there. Making sure your writing has that clear structure, formal language, so you're not using kids, you're using students or children there as well. You've got that academic tone. And you're following APA 7th referencing correctly. Those elements will all contribute to a well-rounded and high-quality report. Now, it is a pass or fail assessment. However, you must pass every criterion, okay, in order to pass the assignment. Keeping in mind, you've also got to pass the professional experience report. So please spend time with that there. Don't just think, oh, it's an easy tick and flick, pass or fail, I'll just do this. Because if we find areas and you haven't met a particular criterion, it's going to then indicate a fail grade for the overall assignment there. So just spend time, go back through this PowerPoint, look at the slides, oh, I'll break it down like this. All right. And I have come up with a suggested layout that I'll show you at the end. When writing your report, please make sure you're using credible sources. All right, not Reading Rockets, not Aussie Childcare Network, all of those sources. They might be great for blogs and some informal knowledge, but it needs to be credible sources to back up your analysis. Stick to peer-reviewed journals, textbooks, any reputable research. Don't forget to follow APA 7th referencing, and again, the library has some great support there as well. Use in-text citations correctly and then reference that in your reference list. Keep your writing professional, a formal academic tone. Do not just put the child down in that deficit way. Look at the strengths and weaknesses. Be clear and concise, everything that would go with a normal academic paper here at Griffith University. And also make sure it flows. Tell me, this is the data, this is what I found out, this is what the data tells me, this is how it links to those 2 of the 6 repertoires, these are my 2 pedagogies and why. Your report should be well structured, easy to follow, and make strong, coherent arguments or connections there as well. Finally, before I wrap up, just make sure that you have started your data collection early, because it needs to be over a series of those 3 weeks. So hopefully you're watching this going, yep, I've started straight away. I know Kirsty and myself have told our classes to do that in those tutorials. Don't leave it to the last minute, because you need to show it over a period of time. The more observations you have, the stronger your analysis will be. You might go, oh, actually, I've got too much. I'm not going to put that in my assignment and appendix. Fine, discard it. But it's better to have it than go, oh, actually, I need to go back to placement. I've got no more days left. I've finished my placement, but I still need more data. So collect more while you're on placement. You can filter and sort it out when you get home. You were informed of this assessment before you commence placement, so you should really have already started to think about the types of data you will collect. When choosing your pedagogies, think about what actually fits the child's need, not just some loosely connected pedagogical approach, but something that has meaning and impact to that child there as well. So don't pick something randomly, is what I'm saying. Be intentional. Use real examples from your experience to back up your points. So you won't be able to use ChatGPT there as well, because it's all to do with that particular child. Make sure your analysis is more than just retelling me. You're digging deeper. So proofread, double check it, get a friend or family member to read it there. Does it make sense before you submit it? Because that will impact it. Even though it's not a 5-point scale, it's got to have that academic tone there as well. So please take the time to get it right. So I am, and I know Kirsty and Jeannie is looking forward to reading your work. Here is a summary of what we've discussed in this mini assessment lecture video. So collect data on that child's reading skills. Analyze it. Analyze their reading strategies. What are their strengths? What's their areas to improve on? From that, link to those 6 repertoires. Select 2 reading pedagogies. Report on that there as well. Now, it's saying in the course profile, that's the report you would give your supervising teacher. By all means, you will share it with them and talk to them about it, because in the real world, that's what you would do. You'd write up a report and discuss it with the parent there, or any specialist services with parents' permission to best support them if they're struggling there as well, or with the reading teacher, learning enhancement, learning support teacher as well, and that goes on the child's file. So we want it to be stimulate that real world practicality there as well. Finally, all right, I've just come up with this suggested layout. Now, if you've already started and you're happy with the flow of your assignment there as well, and don't go, oh, I haven't done that exactly in that order. Don't stress. As long as you're adhering to the criterion, each criterion and that criteria, you're fine. But if you're going, oh, I'm not sure how to structure it, here is a suggested layout. Now, there was a lot of comments on the discussion board saying some further clarity. So structure it like this then, if you're one of those people that go, I'm not sure how to do it. I'm visual, I need to see it, so this would help me. Introduction, purpose, brief overview of the big six, that's showing your knowledge of it. Data collection, analysis, selection of those two pedagogies, progress, report, reflection, and then a conclusion. Please keep in mind references go first before the appendix list. That is proper APA format there as well. Appendixes are not marked, so you might have several, and that's just going to further support what it is that you have been talking about there as well. And it'll probably save some of your word count, because you can say see Appendix A, see Appendix B there as well. I hope this mini assessment lecture has been useful. You've found it informative. You may have to go back and replay it or go back and watch sections there as well. But as I said earlier, we are looking forward to reading your work, and well done on all your progress in this course. Thanks, everyone.